Alright, so, this is going to be a comic review that is a comic I got, not one from Chris, because I have a whole stack of both mine and Chris, but this is one I got a little while back, and this is a crossover between The Rocketeer and the Spirit, Pulp Friction. This is a comic written by Mark Waid. I think this came out 2016, so this is a kind of a rather little older book. So Rocketeer the Spirit was, I think, one of, if not DC and IDW's first collaborations. I can't remember if this was the first one or the Star Trek Legion of Superheroes was the first one. But either way, it was one of those two that kind of opened the door to DC and IDW being friends like DC and Dark Horse used to be. And essentially what it was that it was a comic collaboration that would one day lead to TMNT and Ninja Turtles, arguably one of the most lucrative and famous crossovers. But let's talk about this one. This was kind of interesting to use as your first collaboration of having these two characters that, while they have a lot of love behind them and a cult following, not a lot of people know them. It's kind of unfortunate. And yeah, but you have Mark Waid behind it, and arguably one of the best writers in the business. And he's writing two characters that have a lot, like two pulp characters in a pulp story. How good is it? Meh. It's a 4-part book that feels like it was, like, I don't know if Mark Waid didn't want to do this story or not, but it doesn't feel like him. It doesn't feel like his writing. It feels like he was just kind of like, it's a job. I don't know where it was. And also, Darwin Cook was still alive by this point, and he does a variant cover for this. And I'm kind of like, why didn't you just give this to Darwin? Because if you want to talk about someone who knows his shit about pulp characters and also draws these characters beautifully, this should have just been written and drawn by Darwin Cook. If you really wanted a little more competent story, you just should have gone to Darwin to begin with. Also, real quick, if you want to know a real good Spirit crossover with the Spirit, check out Darwin Cook's Batman the Spirit crossover one-shot. It's a lot of fun. I would say it's one of my honorable mentions on my top 20 on my top crossovers ever. But yeah. So, what is the Rocketeer and the Spirit about? Well, it's set during the coming war of World War II, the coming of World War II, and essentially it follows the start of it is a U.S. senator who is angry about the whole idea of the corporate privatization of television, and because television is still a new thing, and the government, this was an actual thing, was going to let private businesses regulate television. That's why you see so many sponsors and whatnot here on television. That was a real thing, and it would eventually lead to some of the chaos we have now in our real life. That's a real thing. However, this senator said, I'm going to, protest this and go all the way to the president to veto it if I have to. But what happens is he's found dead the next day, but not in Washington. He's found all the way in California. So Dolan, who is an ally of the Spirit, think of him as like Commissioner Gordon, but a lot more hornier. That's the best way I can describe him. And they find out Dolan is a friend of the senator, and him and the Spirit, along with his Dolan's daughter, who's the Spirit's girlfriend, go to California, where they encounter the Spirit. I mean, not the Spirit, the Rocketeer, where the Rocketeer's girlfriend Betty is the one who found the body, and is kind of traumatized by it. Meanwhile, you have this whole plot by the Octopus, the Spirit's arch nemesis, and this guy called Trask, who is built a camera that, I'm shit you not, can teleport people and objects and also erase their minds. It's like a MacGuffin. And how he built it? Anyway, so that's it. This is a very by-the-numbers crossover where the first issue, the Spirit and Rocketeer fight, then they team up, they swap girlfriends for a hot minute, not in a swinger way. And yeah. I know that the whole running gag with these characters is that, especially with the Rocketeer's girlfriend Betty, is that she's very objectified. They go really overboard with her character in here. I'm like, Mark, you're better than this. I know you're trying to pay homage to Will Eisner and, you know, the creator of the Rocket and the other creator of the Rocketeer, but this is a little below you. So it was a little like it just. It's also interesting that for out of nowhere, like halfway through like towards the end of this 4-issue book, it's mentioned that this is the early career of the Rocketeer and the Spirit, which makes no goddamn sense to me because by this point, before like this is 1941, in the stories that we always see, it's all like both characters are well established in the 30s. Although, to be fair, the Rocketeer is more noted that he was kind of like Captain America and did fight Nazis in overseas battles. So that's kind of confused me. That out of nowhere, it's like, oh, the Spirit and Rocketeer. This is like they've only been around for a few months, and this is issue 4. That's telling. Okay, all right, sure, fucking whatever. It's an okay book. I mean, the artwork's fine, but a lot of it is faux Cook. Like, it's trying to be Darwin Cook artwork, and I'm like, you should have just, again, it should have just been Darwin Cook who wrote this book. But, yeah, it's not the best crossover I've read, but not the worst. It definitely is just, here's Rocketeer, here's Spirit, let's go. And, yeah. So, I do have another Spirit crossover, which is written by Fred Van Lente, and that one has the Spirit crossing over with Green Hornet. So I'm curious to see how that goes. Anyway, so there you go, guys. If you can find it, it's a rather hard to find book, because the Spirit is now under Dynamite, apparently. I don't know where the rights are, but last I checked, they are under Dynamite. So I found this by happenstance. So this book is really hard to find, so if you can... I think it only came in hardcover, and I think you could find it, like, it's $22 in hardback. I don't think I ever found it in softcover. So, yeah. Anyway, so there's my review. Hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.